Oh, I love that you said that it took you 5 years because most people don't realize that the journey is really long. They think that, it's a very short process and that you should know what you're doing when you first start out in business. And it's nothing like that.
It's very true. Yeah, it's kind of like a never-ending experiment, and it's like you are going from one failure to the next without a loss of enthusiasm. Just trying to learn what it is that your business can do differently than competitors, what it is that in the marketplace you can delight customers and earn their business and keep them. It takes a long time to figure this out. And you don't know that until you get into the trenches and try to get a business going. Nobody can prepare you for that. And I think it's a better journey to spend your life than working a job somewhere, because there's unlimited upside.
Right.
But it's very different than working a job. You're going to go backwards. If you quit your job today and start a business, you're going to go backwards, and it might be 3 years before you can make what you're making in your job today. But then beyond that, you have unlimited upside.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us today on Entrepreneurial Truth. Today, we have Bryan Clayton here with us from Greenpal. And I'm so excited to have you on. I know our listeners are going to get a lot of information. It's going to be very valuable for them. So I would love for you to start off today by just introducing yourself, letting us know a little bit about what you're doing in the space of technology, and go right ahead.
Sounds great, Kesty. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so my name is Bryan Clayton. I'm CEO of a company called Greenpal. Greenpal is a mobile app that it works like DoorDash or Instacart or Uber, but for lawn care services. So if a homeowner needs to get somebody to mow their yard, rather than calling all over the place asking for quotes, they just download Greenpal, they put their address in, and then lawn mowing services nearby them compete for their lawn mowing business. And they hire them with their account, whether on the website or on the mobile app. And then if they like how they did, they can just push another button, and it just happens every week for the rest of the lawn mowing season. And Greenpal is a 10-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for a little over a decade, and now nationwide in the United States with about 300,000 people using it every week for lawn mowing.
I love it. I love it. And I know we got the opportunity to speak before, and there were some questions that I really wanted to ask you about your service. And just gonna take it here because I made my notes. So, um, so you began your entrepreneurial journey with the lawn mowing business in high school. Can you share, like initially, what inspired you to start the business and how you managed to scale it to 150 employees and 10 million in revenue?
Yeah, so starting Greenpal, about the only thing that my co-founders and I had going for us was we knew the lawn mowing business. I had spent 15 years in the lawn mowing business before starting Greenpal, running a landscaping business. And so I grew that company, which I started in high school as a way to make extra cash. I grew it from just myself and a push mower to 150 people, 90 trucks going out every day, and eventually around $10 million a year in sales. From year 1 to year 15, grew it from no revenue to 10 million a year in revenue. And so I learned a lot about the landscaping business, obviously, but I learned also just what goes into running a small business and scaling a small business. And the thing is, nobody teaches us how to run a small business. That's one of the hard things about it. It's we're not taught this in high school or college. And so it's kind of one of those things you have to learn by doing it, and you learn through trial and error, and you learn by trying things that work and things that don't work. And that's kind of how my experience was building the first company. I had to learn how to become a decent manager, learn how to become a decent leader, learn things like what the value proposition of the company was and how we differentiated ourselves in the market, because the landscaping business is very competitive. It has low barriers to entry. And so
Right.
at times you can be like a commodity. And so I had to define what we did differently than our competitors. And it took a while. It took a while to grow and scale that company. But it wasn't really until I realized that I wasn't in the landscaping business at all. I was in the sales business. I had to figure out a way to create a sales engine at the core of what we did. And once I kind of tuned that, which took about 5 years, we started to scale from 1 million to 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, and beyond.
Oh, I love that you said that it took you 5 years, because most people don't realize that the journey is really long. They think that, it's a very short process and that you should know what you're doing when you first start out in business. And it's nothing like that.
It's very true. Yeah, it's kind of like a never-ending experiment, and it's like you are going from one failure to the next without a loss of enthusiasm, just trying to learn what it is that your business can do differently than competitors, what it is that in the marketplace you can delight customers and earn their business and keep them. It takes a long time to figure this out. And you don't know that until you get into the trenches and try to get a business going. Nobody can prepare you for that. And I think it's a better journey to spend your life than working a job somewhere, because there's unlimited upside.
Right.
But it's very different than working a job. You're going to go backwards. If you quit your job today and start a business, you're going to go backwards, and it might be 3 years before you can make what you're making in your job today. But then beyond that, you have unlimited upside.
Right. And I like that you've lessened the curve for people in the landscaping industry by introducing them to your app, right?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that was the mission, and still is the mission when I started Greenpal. Was okay. So I've spent 15 years in this business. It's really hard. It's hard to make a living as a landscaping business. You wake up at like 5 a.m. every day. You sharpen lawnmower blades. Your back hurts because you're physically executing this service, and it's a hard way to make a living. So when I built Greenpal, I wanted to build a tool set that helped those working professionals, that helped them get new customers, that helped them organize everything into one clean, easy to understand place, one route, one CRM, and then get paid very quickly for the work they do by and helping them collect credit cards for the customers that they have. And again, that took 5 years to figure out. And so I think it takes you several years to figure out what you're doing and what makes you different, what you're good at, and to get pointed in the right direction. But if you can stick with it and just make little small wins and incremental progress, before you know it, you wake up in a different world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I want to ask you about your challenges, right? So after selling the lawn care business, right? And you jumped back into the entrepreneurial world of like creating this Greenpal, like what challenges did you face in that transition?
Yeah, it was kind of so I built the landscaping business to 8 figures in revenue and sold it, which doesn't happen very often in this industry. And so that was really hard. And so I thought that I was kind of done after that. And I wanted to take time off. I wanted to take like a year or two off and travel and just do investing. And so that was my plan. And I tried to do that, but it's very weird. Like if you don't have a mission with your life, if you don't have a reason to get out of bed in the morning and just be better and do better and learn new things, life gets really existential very quickly. And that's what happened to me after about 3 months. I was like, what the hell am I doing? There's no mission to my life. My business was the reason why I would get out of bed in the morning and just like give something my all. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll just start another company. I don't really want to. The last company almost killed me. It was so hard running it, but I guess I'll start another company. And I remember I had watched the movie The Social Network, and in that movie, they build Facebook in like 15 minutes, and it's set to the background of like a musical montage. Like it makes it look really glamorous. And so I thought, damn, that looks cool. Those guys really changed the world and bent the world to their way. So a tech company looks fun, and I can just kind of like sit behind a laptop and code up stuff, and people will use it, and I'll have millions of users overnight. And so okay, well, I want to do that. Well, what can I do? Well, I don't really know much other than this industry. So, and luckily at the time, Uber was just coming out. And so this was validation that you could push a button and something happened in the real world. Before Uber, that was not the case. It was like you push a button and like you could post something online, or you could read a blog, or you could send an email. It was very much digital. But when Uber came along, digital started to mix with physical, where things happen in the real world when you push a button. And so that was validation to me that somebody is going to build an app that works like this, but for this industry that I know, this landscaping business. And so the idea I knew would work. Now, I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to build software. I had never done anything like that before, but it was very much naivete as an asset. Again, social network, they built Facebook in an hour. How hard could it be? And I recruited two co-founders, told them about the idea. They said, I will quit my job and do that with you tomorrow. None of us knew how to code. None of us had ever built a software product. So we just started like on a whiteboard drawing up what we thought the screens might look like, and then we would take pictures of those, and then we would call development shops, development agencies that had engineers, and for a fee, for a project-based price, they will build whatever it is you want them to build. And so we did that, and we pulled together our money. We pulled together around $150,000 of our money. This was like liquidated 401ks, credit card checks, things like that. And we paid a development shop to build what we thought Greenpal should be. And it took them 7 or 8 months, and they delivered it back to us. And it was like very obvious that this was dead on arrival, that it was this was not going to work. It was barely functional. It was hard to use. It did not fulfill the vision of push a button and magic happens. Somebody mow my yard. And so we were like really like disheartened by that and like punched in the stomach. But we introduced that into the local market where we live, Nashville, and passed out door hangers and got people to use that piece of crap that we paid $150,000 for. And then we realized like there's 1,000 things wrong with this, and we don't stand a chance unless we can learn how to build software, unless we can really teach ourselves how to build software. Looking back, trying to start a tech company without the ability to execute tech is kind of like saying, I have an idea for a song. I just need to go find a musician. It's really something you have to have core in the DNA of the founding team. But we didn't know any engineers. We didn't know any tech guys. So we had to become them. And my co-founder went to a software boot camp. He put $9,000 on a credit card that he didn't have to go to a software boot camp that was 6 months long. And then I went to YouTube University. I became the world's worst front-end engineer. And the two of us cobbled together the next version of the platform. And it took another year. But at least now this version we could iterate on and make fixes and make improvements. And that's kind of what building a tech product is like. It is a never-ending series of improvements and fixes and tweaks and based on what users are telling you. And if you can't run those cycles in-house, you don't stand a chance. And that's the lesson we learned the hard way.
Yeah, I get it. You know, with our AI that we're doing now in terms of just building it out, even though we're doing like a lot of no code, it's still code, right? So
Totally.
when people say no code, it's impossible. It does include some form of coding, and you have to have a general understanding of how things work and how systems work in order to get it from point A to point B. So from the point that you got it up and your second version was out, explain to me the growth from that point on. What did that look like?
Yeah, so some smart founder said one time, I don't know who it was, but he said that first-time founders worry about product and second-time founders worry about distribution. And that was another painful lesson we went through. We focused on the product. We thought the product mattered. We thought that this was the vehicle to take us where we wanted to go. and it product does matter, but what you realize is if you build it, they will not come. And 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 you realize that the product is important. I mean, of course it is, but it really is kind of table stakes. It really is like, yeah, of course you have to have a fantastic product, but you also, on top of that, have to innovate on some kind of way to get users for that product.
Right.
And as it turns out, in most cases, that's about 10 times harder than just building the thing in the first place. And this is why 90% plus of new startups fail, because they've built a great product, but there's no engine to get it into the hands of people who need it. And Facebook ads and Google ads is not an answer to that. That's a way to get an early kind of test case of users to validate some ideas, but it's not going to take you to thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of users. You have to have some other kind of way to spread the product, and you have to innovate. So for us, we beat our heads against the wall. We spent all of our money on Facebook ads and Google ads, and yeah, we got a handful of users, but it was not enough to build a business with. And we started to realize the only thing that is showing any signs of life for us is content marketing and developing unique content around these landscaping services that pay to use the platform, and helping them create biographies about their business, pictures of their equipment, pictures of them, what makes their business different at a local level, what services they offer, and then surfacing this unique content about these small business owners in this industry enabled us to get some traffic at a local level. And that started to work. And believe it or not, 10 years later, that's still what we do. We are one of the world's preeminent marketers of lawn care services through content marketing. And we do it by talking about who these professionals are, what makes them different. And this content doesn't exist anywhere else because it's unique. We create it. And also we have the transactional data around how reliable these guys are, how often they show up on time, what the pricing is. And so when people are looking for this service, they find that content and they're like, what is this Greenpal thing? Okay, seems like I can hire this guy or gal really quickly through this account. Okay, I'm going to try it out. And that's how we get 60, 70% of new consumers to use the platform. And then beyond that is just creating a really good service that people want to continue to use.
Right.
You can't build a good business with unhappy customers. I mean, you need to be keeping, the majority of the people who in the early days who are using it. If not, that's a sign that there's no reason to try to scale this thing because it's not working. So yeah, it took 3 or 4 years for us to figure out. And we spent, it took us 2 years just to get 100 transactions in a week. But now we do tens of thousands. And so everything that, gets to be big starts off very small, and you just got to make those little small goals, knock them down, and then they begin to compound.
I'm really impressed though that you guys like literally just pushed through, and a lot of entrepreneurs starting up, they can't push through the pain of not having it grow at a certain speed. How did you maintain that we're still gonna push through and work through those problems? Like, what did you implement to even be able to do that?
It was a few things. So to your point, yeah, those first 3-4 years are really tough because you're not making any money. You're asking like what am I doing with my life? Your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, they think you're a loser. And so you're like, it's really, you have to have conviction that this idea is going to work and it needs to exist. And for me, I had made a personal decision when I sold my first company that no matter what, I was going to work the next 10, 20 years on my best idea.
Wow.
And so that was kind of a default status of who I was and what I was doing with my life. And so on top of that, I guess, fortunately, I've had only one good idea in a decade. And it's that this app should exist, that there should be a platform
Right.
for conveniently connecting with a lawn care service. And then on the other side, there should be a business in a box for lawn care services. They should be able to
Mm.
plug in, get all the customers they want, organize it in one place, get paid in 24 hours, get reviews, and like get a little slice of the American dream on our technology.
Wow, I love
And
that.
so I that was the vision then. It still is the vision now. And so I knew that it would work. I knew it was a good idea. It was just a lot harder than I had ever imagined it would be. And so
Hmm.
how do we push through that? Well, like I said, I had made a decision. Okay, I'm working on my best idea. That's it. It's not working right now, but I'm going to keep showing up and grinding on it until it does work. And then the other thing is being patient, like wow, setting very small goals but knocking those goals down.
Hmm.
So I knew if we could get to 100 in a week, then eventually we would get to 1,000. And I knew if we get to 1,000, we could get to 10, and then 10 would turn into 100,000 a week. And so that's how we kind of stair shift our way into it. And so it's important to be patient to let the process evolve and run its course. But also you don't want to confuse patience with procrastination.
Mm.
And so a lot of times founders will just like be patient and like they'll believe in this BS of, oh, I'm manifesting it and I'm just going to trust the process. I'm going to trust the process. These things take time. And Colonel Sanders was 75 when he started KFC, and Sam Walton was 50 was 32, and Ray Kroc was 55 or something. And it's like those guys had spent decades working in a similar type of thing before. Like, no, they weren't sitting around waiting for like lightning to strike. And so you don't want to you don't want to confuse patience with procrastination. So you
Right.
have to be patient, but you have to set really small goals, quickly get them done, and
Right.
then the next small goal needs to be like twice as big as the other small goal. And then
Right.
as time goes on, compounding takes place.
Right. Right. Wow. Wow. So you already, I want to ask about your impact on small businesses, right? Your support of the small lawn care business. Can you share a couple of success stories where your app significantly impacted those business?
It's really why we do what we do. We offer a nice convenience to consumers. They can quickly set up an account, get connected with 4 or 5 different lawn care professionals that want their business. That's an important key piece. They want their business. They're going to show up on time, and they can quickly connect, get pricing, and pay them. It's nice convenience. But really, why I get out of bed in the morning and why now a decade in, we're still grinding on this is because it really is a business in a box. It's one place where somebody who wants to work hard in the landscaping industry can quickly get set up, plug in, start getting introduced to customers, perform transactions, and then get rated and reviewed on how they're doing, and know how, and get some feedback and monitoring on how they're doing, and so they can excel or realize that, hey, maybe this is not the business for them, and not excel and drop out of the business. But it quickly the platform quickly surfaces who's taking this seriously and helps them thrive. And so every day we have 35,000 of these professionals that use the platform to run their business. And every day we get messages. We have a Facebook group where a lot of them kind of share thoughts and tips on how to grow their business on top of Greenpal. And they tell us, hey, because of Greenpal, I was able to pay off student loan debt or medical debt, or I was able to put a down payment on a house, or I was able to hire my first employee, or here's a big one. I was able to buy a riding lawnmower. Now
Wow.
you might think big deal, but when you first get started in this business, you're pushing. You may not have $5,000 to go buy a good mower, so you're pushing the lawnmower, and like that's a really hard way to make a living. And so that moment where you now have the capital, the money from the increased revenues to invest in a five, sometimes as much as $15,000 lawnmower, it really does improve your life because now it's you can ride, and you can also not only you riding, but you're you're making more money because you're knocking out more square footage of grass than you were previously. And so those are big moments. We have a single mother in Atlanta that started on the platform, just herself, push mowing, and she would do little yards, and then as over 5 years has grown a business with 10 employees in the Atlanta area, doing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with her Greenpal account. So these things are important to us. We believe what we do is a public good, and it's important to us to continue to grow and distribute that.
And what's your plan for long term? Like down the road, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see it?
I believe it's only a matter of time before we get to 1 million people using it on a regular basis, and that's our next milestone. Right now, we're at 300K. We want to get to 1 million. When we set out to build this, we wanted to build something that would touch the mass market, something that would have impact. And I think, I don't know why, but in my head, 1 million seems like we're beginning to do that. Right now, we're still very much just a drop in the bucket. But as time goes on, these numbers still compound. We'll be at 1 million people using it, and then maybe we'll be in the same kind of conversation as an Instacart or a DoorDash, where Greenpal is just the default way you get this chore done.
Oh, I like that. And for your personal motivation, you've achieved now some success, right? What drives you to keep pushing the boundaries and innovating in the space? And let me reframe that. So now you have these users using the platform. Are you using analytics or the data to continuously improve the platform, or are you happy with where it is now and just trying to get more users on it?
So it just, I mean, you think that you solve 3 or 4 or 5 problems and then you're good for a while. And you think, oh, if I can just solve these next 2 things and to make this particular hire or something, then I'll be good. And the fact is, you solve these 5 things, that means you get to solve 5 more. And it just never ends. It never ends. And so you have to be a relentless problem-solving machine as a founder, as a business owner. And I think embracing that reality is helpful. And so that's how we look at it. It never ends. The improvement on how do we build technology that enables a consumer to get lawn mowing quicker, cheaper, faster, more reliably, more efficiently. And then how do we build something that enables lawn mowing professionals to make more money with less headache is just never ending in terms of optimizing that. And so in the early days, it was all intuition. It was data, but it was data based on a conversation with 5 customers.
Right.
As time goes on, those qualitative kind of data points turn into quantitative data, where now you're looking at thousands of data points, and you're able to kind of like draw insights based on what that means, and that informs your decision making a little bit. So we're always doing A/B tests. We're always testing things, testing in terms of presentation of different buying options, different layouts, different, as a market, as a network, different ways that the network is constructed in terms of the rules of how it works. We're always testing that. And the thing is, like, when you're building a network like this, you don't really know the result of that test until a year later. It's like you change something here and you never really know the downstream effects of what it means in terms of activity on the network until 6 months or years later. So that makes it hard, but you're always tweaking and testing and iterating things. That never ends.
Oh, and what advice would you give to someone like the version of yourself like 10 years ago?
I would tell myself 10 years ago so it's a weird dichotomy. So there's a dichotomy of delegating too soon and delegating too late. And I made both mistakes. So I delegated too soon because I didn't know how to build software, and so I hired a development shop, and that wasted a year of my life and $150,000. So I delegated too soon, and then after that, I had like the PTSD of that, and so my co-founders and I did everything for the next 4 years. We didn't delegate at all. So then we delegated too late. And so I would like tell myself that, hey, you have to like get this intuition around the 80-20, what they call the Pareto principle, where it's like 20% of the knowledge of any specific thing gives you 80% of the acumen of the results. And once you hit that 80-20 point, whether it be in development, copywriting, design, whatever, you need to frame up a role and delegate it to somebody who can specialize in it, so you can then move on to the next thing. And so I would tell myself, like, I would beat that into my head, like, don't delegate until you have the 80-20 nailed. But then after you get the reps in, you're doing it, you understand how it works, you've done it for 1,000 hours, then develop the process around it in which you're going to delegate it to somebody who can specialize in it and focus on it.
Right, right, right. And how are your co-founders? So there were three of you that went down the road, right? Are you guys still managing and overseeing the software portion of it, or have you removed yourself from that to kind of like how, and when did you decide to?
So I think it's important to give chunks of the operation to different co-founders in which to in the early days do like you're an individual contributor as well as the founder, and so
Right.
you're doing all the work. A lot of people think that's not the case. It's like, oh, I'm a founder, so I can pay somebody to do all this stuff. Like, no, you literally are writing the blog posts, you're doing the customer support, you're writing the code, you're laying down the designs, you're doing it. So, but as time goes on, your co-founders can kind of specialize in chunks of the business, and hopefully that's aligned with what they're good at and what their natural inclination is. And so for us, the way it's kind of shaken out is my co-founder that went to software school, he's the official CTO. He is the head of all things technical execution, and so he manages the development team. He makes sure that what we're speccing gets built and gets built right. Make sure that the platform has functional integrity, that is not buggy, and that team is about 15 people that he manages. And then my other co-founder manages all things marketing and PR. So it's his job to make it rain, to make sure that Greenpal is in the press, that makes sure that USA Today is talking about Greenpal, that the Chattanooga River Times in Chattanooga, Tennessee is talking about Greenpal, that the Sacramento Bee in Sacramento, California is talking about Greenpal. All these local little small markets that we operate in are talking about us, because that's important. It's important to move people at a local level to the platform. And it's also important for content marketing. So that's a tremendously hard thing to execute on. So he manages all of that side of the business. And then I manage everything growth and everything product. So what does the product look like? Where is it going? What are the new features we're adding? What are the features we're killing? What are people telling us? I still do an hour or two a day of customer support, because I always want to know what people are telling us and where they're happy, where they're not happy, how we're baking that into the product. And then also growth. What does traffic look like? Is traffic increasing? Is it decreasing? What other channels are we experimenting in? So all those things. So that's kind of how it has shaken out. Team's about 40 people, and it's a good size now. I don't really want to build a huge company again, or I say huge, or I don't want to build a company with over 100 employees again. So I'm happy with where it is right now, and I'd like to keep the team about the same size. I think we can with AI. AI has made a lot of our people more efficient, so I think we're good for a while.
Oh, and I'm glad you jumped into that. And can you tell us a little bit more about how you've managed to implement AI?
Yeah, so a year ago when ChatGPT 4 was really getting rolling, I personally thought a year later life would be a lot different, but it's not. So it's not like as of yet this incredible technology has really changed our lives that much yet. I think it will. I don't know how long. I think it's less than 5 years. But where do we use it? We use the hell out of it with just better content creation. And so what I mean by that is better ways to describe the services that small individual providers are using or are offering. Like rather than say, hey, he can do shrub pruning for you for $45. We can describe that better at scale with AI. So that's one way we use it. Our developers use it to be more efficient in terms of refactoring code
Mm-hmm.
and validating code. Is it a replacement for developers? No.
No.
We use it for social media marketing. It really helps us kind of be quicker about different content ideas. So what I think AI can do today is it can turn a mediocre player into an A player, because it can make them faster, it can make them better, it can make them more thorough, and then also it can make an A player like a top 1% player, and so it levels everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
And also it just one person can in customer support can do the work of 10 people.
Right.
So it makes people much more efficient. Ideally, it will automate and totally do away with a lot of manual tasks that we're having to still do, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're pretty close to what it can do. And I do know that it takes a while for customers or consumers to actually want to implement it. Obviously, the more people on the platform, then the smarter it gets, right?
Absolutely. It's only going to get better and better. And there's no doubt that it's going to have massive widespread impact, but it's probably still more than a year or two away, and less than 5 is my guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And finally, I would love if you could share like 2 or 3 tips that you think aspiring entrepreneurs could use, to level themselves up. So, if they were the beginning you, what tips would you give them?
Yeah, there's no silver bullets, but some things that I would tell you to do is to always be using your own product. In startup circles, they call this dog fooding your own product. And what I mean by that is it's baffling how many new founders haven't signed up for their product in a year. And so you need to be once a week going through the customer onboarding process. You need to be a customer of it. Like, for example, Greenpal, I do real estate investing on the side. So I use Greenpal to manage like 10 different lawn mowing services in different cities. And so I'm always seeing bugs and things. I'm like, damn, and so you have to use your own product. Sam Walton was famous for this, for walking the store. He would go to any Walmart in the country and he would walk it himself, So you have to use your own product. And that seems obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. Second thing is do your own customer support. In the early days, you're doing all of it. The email needs to go to your personal email. The cell number needs to go to your cell. You need to be on the damn phone, live chat, email like half the day, because you need to know what people are saying. You need to know what they want. You need to know where you're letting them down. You need to know it's free R&D. It'll allow you to innovate quicker. So in the early days, you're doing all your support. Then as you get thousands of customers, you can no longer like keep up with it so low. You need to intentionally do at least an hour a day. And so I do an hour a day, sometimes 2, because I don't want there to be this mysterious like misunderstanding between what I'm looking at in terms of what the business is and what users are looking at. And so that's important. And then the third thing is be mindful of when you're working in the business and when you're working on the business, because a lot of people get stuck in the business and they never set aside time to work on the business. In terms of what is a system or a process that I need to build, like what's the biggest problem in your business right now? We can't keep any employees. Okay, well, I need to work on a better employee training system so I can at least train up my new employees faster. And you spend time on these things, and maybe one day a week, but you got to set aside the time. Otherwise, you get on the hamster wheel, and the next thing you know, 10 years have gone by, and you're still self-employed. You don't own a business. And so those are 3 things that are, whenever I'm stuck, I can usually go back to one of those three and kind of unstick myself.
I actually love it. Like, I can tell by the conversation, the experience that you have in just doing it and being in the business and doing the things that are working, because a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck at that level of not going back to evaluate what's going wrong and what's going right in the business, because they're
Totally.
literally day to day grinding on that business. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you're doing. And is there anything else that you'd like to share, how they can connect?
Yeah, anybody that doesn't want to waste time mowing your own yard, just go to greenpal.com and you'll get free quotes. Anybody want to hit me up, just Google my name, Bryan Clayton, LinkedIn, and just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for taking time today to be a part and sharing your experience with our guests.
Thanks, Kessie. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.